Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Hero Podcast. My name is Ryan G from Aligned Data Strategy. And of course, with my co-host, the real Pete Kirkwood, your success maker, your king builder, and of course, your empire creator. Welcome to the call. On today's topic, I believe, Pete, you came up with a topic I was very surprised and didn't expect it. Before the call, we had a quick discussion on it, and I was like, yeah, that makes sense. And of course, the topic is making
Making
new.
new friends.
Indeed, indeed. Now, tell us a bit more about what you meant by it.
Right. So the thing is, it's not often that we make new friends, especially good
Fair.
friends, right? Like when you think about your good friends, they're usually old friends you've had for a long time. And I'm certainly not discounting those. I've got plenty of good friends I've had for a long time.
Right.
Some of those long times are like a year, but you can get through a lot in a year with a person. You know, that can be a long time. Some of those friendships are like 29 years, you know, and that doesn't change the way that I have to like that they rank just because one's older or newer. So
Right.
making new friends is really, really important. But how often do we do it? You know what I mean? Like, when was the last time you made a new friend? Just off the top of your head, roughly.
Yeah, maybe a month ago.
Not bad. Not bad, you know? Now, I guess you would say that for extroverts, this might almost seem like a nonsensical thing because opening up and talking to people is not that hard for them. And introverts find it really
Fair.
hard to broach a conversation and start a conversation. So they might think, well, making new friends is really hard for me. But the thing that's not about either of those, it's about the sharing and the connection. Because talking to another human being might be easy or hard, but we're talking about the quality of that communication because we're talking about making new friends. And by friends, I mean like, oh man, what are the odds I'm in this room? Friends who became family.
Yeah,
Like
right, right.
literally, the quote is there from the movie on the wall. It's the life I live. We had four men sitting there last night.
Right.
We all took a caffeine no dose, so we were all
Right.
like completely awake. And
Right.
then we went out. We went out to town, and then we got denied because we don't have the fucking overlord control pass thing.
Control
And
pass.
hey, that's what it is. And we came home, and we're still completely awake, so we just sat around and actually talked. But it was really cool because we'd had like 2 drinks before we had to leave, which was, but it was just that ability where we could have, that genuine discussion about, I've seen you grow through this experience. I've watched you through this. And, when this happened in
Right.
the past, I was coming from it this way. Where were you coming from? And like really talking through a lot of those experiences where people would be like, wow, it's just kind of uncomfortable. And I don't want to, like, yeah, well, we never really worked out that fight that we had. It's like, well, let's have a good conversation about it. Or like, we never really worked out that time that we had that argument or whatever
Right.
it is. Because the thing that's like really beautiful about open communication is that you always end up in a better place no matter what the pain is to go through it. Like you always feel a burden lifted because there's like a niggly thing that's unniggled because you have an answer for something that never made sense.
Right.
And miscommunication is always because two people can't see eye to eye and they can't make sense. So,
Naturally.
whether that's from a past trauma that causes you to act abusive or whatever, or just a simple misunderstanding of language or communication, or you
Which
misheard
is
what the
possible.
person
Right.
said. And that openness that we have when we meet new people, it's just like we have been burned, so we're reluctant to try again. But it's like if you're single and you don't have anyone in your life, Well, if you never talk to anyone, you're never going to. It doesn't matter that you got your heart broken. And the same thing, if you've had friends turn on you, that's just part of life, man. You're going to have to start learning how to go and make new friends and how to judge character better. Because we've all had a friend who's backstabbed us. You know what I mean? Yeah, I know. I know you know the story, right? So, well, of mine and obviously.
Well, it is a story as old as time, isn't it?
Exactly. And the thing that is the challenge for all of us as humans, it's the thing that really, where heroes, they continually rise to any challenge before them. It's that pattern that makes them heroic. And the challenge is for us to rise past our insecurities and our fears of being hurt, to reach out to someone and be a friend with them and be open and honest. And you never know where that friendship or that relationship is going to go, what's going to happen from there. Because you can look at it from the principle of, even physics, thermodynamics. Energy is never destroyed. So when you put your energy into those friendships and relationships, it's going to go somewhere. And if it comes from a really good, healthy, positive place, it's going to create good, healthy, positive things. So yeah, you might run into people who have some trauma and some issues and stuff, but that's no excuse to stop trying. And what it can create for you is, it's like, take for example yesterday, right? It's a good chance Nadine and maybe even Alex will watch this podcast. These are two people that I randomly met because I was on Facebook in my local community group page, right? Because I check out what's going on in my local community, and someone was selling some stuff, and I was like, oh, that's a nice chair. And I was like, I could see, well, yeah, that's interesting. So I sent a message, and I went back and forth a little bit. This lady was like, oh, there's a few other people interested, blah, blah, but I'm not sure. I was like, hey, look, no worries. This is my situation. I can pick it up here, whatever, you just let me know. And she came back and said, look, you've communicated so well that I just want to deal with you. You've been the best to deal with. Just come and get it then, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, that's, awesome, cool. And that just, to me, I was like, cool, good communication makes a difference. So then I went around to get this chair in my MX-5. So I had to pick a day with no rain too. And so the chair goes in and it's sticking out the roof. If you saw my story, you saw it spinning in the
it was funny.
It was funny. It's hilarious. Like,
it's
like, that was just the absurdity of it was just so hilarious. Because the faster I drove, the faster it spun like a windmill. Like
you had your own helicopter. Yeah. I bet a lot of men appreciated that. Like, yeah, I would love to be, a bug on a mirror just to see that.
Right? But the way that ended up happening was like at 2:00 in the afternoon, I was like, sweet, I've got some time just to pop round the corner and pick up that chair, whip round the corner, got there just after 2:00, and then had a genuine conversation with this person. And we're like, we started, discussing back and forth, and it started getting onto the next subject and the next subject. And then I'm talking to her, and then her son gets home, and then I'm talking to him, and he turns out to be a very, very intelligent young man. What do I do for like a career? What's my life purpose? I love helping men find themselves and grow. He's intelligent enough to see where the world's going. And it's like, well, let's give you a few pointers, because, it's not like, how many great role models did you get as a young man growing up? And they were incredibly grateful that I took my time to just hang out and share with them, because they were like, it's really interesting hearing someone who actually understands and sees what's going on around us in the world and is not afraid about it. And like, it's really cool. And I was like, thanks. Because from my perspective, I just want to be an inspiration and help people be inspired. And from their perspective, they're running into so many people who are just negative Nancy's, who are just worried and burdened down, and we better get trouble. And it's just this horrible. But that let's be open, let's be communicative, let's be just honest about it, let's call it what it is, let's not hide behind the bullshit. And
Right. Well,
you know how, go
isn't
for it.
that very similar to, how we became friends eventually, right?
Correct.
I
Yes.
mean, look at how we started as friends. We just happened to know of each other, through Aphrodite Prince, possibly IMCnation back when Diamond Wine was a thing. And I would hear you speak and would always be like, man, what a funny accent.
Yes.
Right, 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 right.
Right.
And
Yeah.
and as we started to talk, just by chance, I sent out a message. I want to discuss business. You were curious. I
And
think it,
then that just became a constant spiral of bouncing of ideas. And we were like, oh, look, we make a really good sounding board. And it's
yeah,
like the value in our relationship became apparent to us only when we had an excuse to be communicating.
right. I remember why I contacted you. It was back in the day when I just started my business and I was very focused on doing a lot of pilots because I wanted to have testimonials, right? And you were one of the people in my Facebook feed where it's like, I have no clue what you do. I need to find out more about you. And as I found out more about you, the more I got, as a word I learned from you, enamored with your ways. It's like,
Mm,
so New Zealand and Australia, not the same country. Okay, interesting. Remember that convo? And
yeah.
like, oh, right, all right, right. I see. So one is slower, one is faster. I see. So I can't call you a Kiwi. Fair enough, fair enough. And as the conversation continued, of course, as a business coach, I help
Mhm.
people build better businesses. I started to realize, oh, you build better people.
Correct. Yes.
And it took a while before, right? I had that down. And the more we talked, the more it became clear, like if we can simplify certain processes, like certain steps, make those more clear, we can start to, if there was a bit of handles with it, you can
Well,
start getting you some.
this is the thing that's really fascinating, right? Because you just demonstrated it. I build better people. Yeah, that's what I do. That's what I do. And that's the first time in my entire life I've heard it in one short sentence.
Yeah,
Because the thing is that one of I'm a genius in very many ways. I'm not afraid to admit that because I'm also a complete fool in many ways as
well,
well. And I know that
they
I have
can't be
huge
good in everything, right?
weaknesses. Absolutely. But one of the things is to try and explain myself in less than 6 hours, like I just did yesterday when I met my new friends. And I was teaching jujitsu moves and fire spinning and
Of
ridiculous
course you
stuff.
will.
Like, it was, of course, why
Oh,
not?
right. That's how I found out about you as well because of the fire spinning. It was like, oh, look at you, white boy, spinning some fire, pretending you're Hawaiian, you know?
You got to do it. And that's that's the thing is that fire spinning for me, I was really fortunate to find that
Mhm.
because it's such a outwardly visual expression of who I am internally. Because a lot of people would not spin fire, but to me, it's like why like that is a risk that I calculated so in my favor that it's like picking up a paintbrush to me. Someone else
Right.
is like anyone who loves art is picking up a paintbrush or a pen or anything like that or an instrument or whatever it is that they do to love to create. For me, just give me that sword.
Right. It's like slow dances during COVID. It's a calculated risk.
Yep, exactly. And that whole over time, it's been really fucking really good for my personal expression.
Right.
But it allows me to express myself in a way that you even see certain people react to certain different people's way of fire dancing, because there's a whole bunch of different tools, bunch of
I
different
see.
music, a whole bunch of different stuff, like fire performing, you could call it, whatever. Fire expression is probably like literally the most accurate term. And it it helped give you sort of like an awareness that I was the kind of person that you would be engaged by in a relationship, which started that process in your mind of, well, I'd approach him to work for business because he has things that seem interesting to me. And
Fair.
then what's been fascinating for me is, like you said, I build better people. I do. And I've helped build you significantly.
Yeah.
I, as many other people as well. It's like the thing is, if you have a close friendship with me, you get that benefit just from being around me.
Of
Sometimes I'll
course.
be uncomfortable and I'll be challenging all the rest of it, but that's just who I am and part of my role.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the thing that's really fascinating is that the way that I get so much out of it, like I'm not some guy standing up above everyone being like, I'm making you all better because I'm so perfect. It's just, I know how I can make you better. And I'm
Right.
not afraid to share that. And then usually it triggers, every reaction has an opposite reaction. It shows you, it shows me how you can make me better.
Exactly.
Because, for example, the concept of being a kingmaker, that came from you. The line just then of I build people better, that came from you. Because it's hard for me to express all of me that much. But for
Right.
you, it's the opposite. You're just trying to condense the information you have into a single point that you can specify. It's the opposite.
Well, it
And
is a special
that,
talent, yeah.
and it's like it's incredible, because what we often fail to realize is that
Mm-hmm.
every human being has a unique way of thinking, of
Mm-hmm.
expressing, of being, of history, of experience, of knowledge. And the better friendships and relationships that we create with people, the
Mm-hmm.
more richer our lives become. So
Mm-hmm.
making new friends is like the best thing in life. Like fuck money. Fuck money. I don't care. Money can go fuck itself. I would rather have 1,000 friends who would be prepared to go to war by my side than $1,000,000. Yeah? Nah. Which would you pick?
I can see what you mean. I can see what you mean. I can see what you mean. If I had
Because
to
like
choose, if I had to
and
choose,
just to be clear, when I say go to war by my side, I mean like be there for me, not just like they don't necessarily all have to be gun-toting badasses. Some of them might just be helping, like totally willing to help me with personal training or bloody fucking writing. I don't know, whatever it is, but
right,
they are down on my side. They're
right,
my boys or my girls. They're my family. 100 people like that
right.
over $1,000,000.
They
There's
have
no
your back,
contest.
right, right. But it goes all the way back to, one of Shane Smith's uh, doctrines in his
Mm-hmm.
book, The Science of Attraction, where it is more about male-female dynamics, but even within friendships, you are
Yep.
judged by your character and the value that you bring. If let's take Terry Council as an example. He is younger than both of us, but this young man
Good man.
has the balls to do welding in dangerous places, to the point
Very
where I'm
sharp.
like, right, very sharp, very wise, and he out earns most of us through sheer um, ballsiness. The welding job that he does is
The
usually
will.
dangerous. He puts his life on the line, and here's where the value comes into play. It's also his character that we can admire, because he's like straight. You can count on. He's like a man's man, which we don't have much left, right? And plus,
And go for it.
and plus, and I happen to give him some insight on how our friendship grew, because I remember we were part of IMC, right? And after I found out how to live in the Netherlands, I definitely wanted to get in contact with him because we follow the same doctrine. So,
You have something
birds
in
of a feather
common.
tends to exactly. So I wanted to game with him. Game means, go out, pick up some chicks, have fun together, build something. And as I got to know him, everything I
Yep.
knew about him was still valid. I just didn't realize how much fun he was. And he could say the same about me.
Yes, yes, because when you know someone from a professional perspective and you
Right,
know of them and you hear about them and you like assess them before you're in a relationship, right? A friendship, an acquaintanceship, a business partnership, any kind of relationship. Doesn't
right,
have to be men, women. Like,
right,
because male female dynamics also is female female dynamics and male male dynamics, right? There's
right.
think about it.
They're very similar. Yeah.
Well, they have parallel
Overlaps. Yeah.
rules like the grid works together regardless. For example, someone like Tariq, I remember when you didn't know him, right? So I've seen that expression, like, wow, you know of him, versus when you speak of him now versus when it was like, oh yeah, no, this guy
Right.
Tariq, him and I are going out, and he was
Yeah.
like this guy, versus
Right.
now he's this man that is a representation of what real men are so rarely able to find. Like that difference, because you know him at that level, and the depths of these friendships. Like you're very fortunate that, well, we're all very fortunate actually that IMC exists in the way that it's like for someone to put that much effort into their own personal development,
Yeah.
you can pretty much be assured that they've got some pretty strong character in there and they've got some value in them. That
Right.
doesn't mean they're a perfect person, right? I ain't giving out like a perfect pass
But we
to
can
every
admire
person who can
the
claim
man who's
IMC.
willing to go to the struggle, especially a struggle that we're
Yes,
very familiar with.
correct, correct. And because it's like Arash is the fucking genius who's built it. But
Right.
just like everything we have was built by some genius, any
Right.
like plenty of idiots will jump on the bandwagon afterwards.
Fair.
And IMC's pretty damn good, but it'll never be perfect forever. Just like the bloody Catholic Church was fucking awesome once upon a time. Just like
Once. Right.
I could go on and on about the institutions, right? Like
Exactly.
once
Because
upon a time,
the value
Rome, you
dilutes
know?
over time until a new doctrine
Yep.
is introduced that fits the context in a superior way.
So the whole now that concept just lost my train of thought there.
Oh, sorry.
It was about so having something in common is a great basis to start a friendship. But
Fair.
when we're seeking to make new friends, one of the biggest challenges is finding something in common. So you have to actually just start being very open with fucking strangers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you have to just start being very open and very honest, good friends. Fascinating. Because when you actually like this is something that now I have a lot more social skill than I have ever done in my life. But I remember there were times like in my 20s and stuff where sometimes I would just completely open up to someone on the internet using a fake account so that they could never find out who I was. But
That's funny.
I just whoa, and the reactions was like they always like had so much like they always like wanted to like be part of my life, and
Right.
I wasn't prepared for that, but it was part of the journey. Like now I'm totally prepared for anyone to try and be part of my life because I know how to set boundaries. Back then I was too
Right.
afraid, I didn't set good boundaries, but now I can be completely open with anyone about anything. And then
I
if they're like,
see.
oh, you know what, I think this, I can be like, no, 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 no. I
I,
just met you. I think you're really cool, but I just met you. You whoa. And
I
I'm not
see.
afraid to do that.
I
So
very see.
that like, and this is the thing is I can see from your perspective, you have a whole lot of skill, but you've never thought of applying it like this.
Exactly. It's like,
And
all these wrestling techniques, but you didn't realize it could be applied in this way. And that's what, my business is all about. I have all
mhm,
these skills, and through, let's say, the IMC doctrine, I managed to realize, wait a minute, if everything that I do is an expression of character, my character specifically, then of course my martial arts is an expression of who I believe I am. And how I express through my business is how I think I am. And that's how I also make friendships. The whole idea behind my business was to create a community around my clients, myself, and create a network of professionals, or better said, business owners that help each other out. Because wouldn't you know, that's
Brilliant.
how Genius Days came about, where, and it's funny because I used to hate on Sumit Chatterjee because I just hated his voice with a passion, with a passion. But
What changed, his voice or your perception?
my perception of him changed because
Cool.
I thought he was this spoiled Indian kid for some reason because he's in the way that he sounds, right? But perception
Mhm.
creates reality, or my reality, even though it doesn't have to be, the truth. Now, just by chance, we happened to talk. Just by chance, it started with memes. I remember we just started sharing memes for some reason, and that's how we got into call and started to realize, oh, this guy ain't that bad. I thought he was A. Now I know it's a bit different. It's just that in a way that he wants to express himself rubbed me off the wrong way. But after talking to him, I started to realize, oh, he's like this. I wouldn't mind having more calls with him. And then the quote of, bro, we should have recorded this. And that's how Fab Nation came into play. Fab Nation,
Ah,
you remember those times? Fab Nation came
yeah,
into
yeah.
play, Flow Aligned podcast. And it was a very memeable podcast where very not safe for work things were discussed, a lot of things about, yes, business, but also deep intimacy, you name it. And after that, we decided, let's commercialize this. And then I got to know Ivan Alejandro Costa. And then
Yeah.
we became friends. I didn't even know who he was. I didn't even know he was IMC. But true Sumer started to realize the different brands that are within IMC and within Aphrodite's Prince, and you name it. Even with Milk J. I thought he was an
And you
enigma in the
start
system.
and you start unlocking these different friendships.
Exactly. I mean, very recently, you want to ask me what friendship I recently created, and it would be Alex Palacio from the United States, right? I
Ah,
think you're familiar.
yes,
And it happened
yes.
when, just by
Duality.
accident, it was last week or something when you had Wi-Fi problems, and just by chance, Milk J and Alex joined the call, and I talked my truth, right? And I forget, you know, I think you said it best. We forget that we're cool, and we forget how cool we are. I don't take myself as cool. I just simply express myself from what I think is the most neutral position, just to play around and have fun, not realizing I'm
Mhm.
giving gold nuggets or demonstrating character or bringing a lot of value from my perspective. And as they ask questions, I go into coaching mode. And of course, my way of coaching is very analytical. If we say A and we come out in B, something here doesn't align correctly. Because if we still have the category of A and we come out B, then there's an alchemic process that took place. And then, for example, if that's not what I want, then something should change. Is this something that I do want? Ah, then this is the process that we should be using and should start refining, like how I refine my dating scripts for Tinder, Bumble, whatever.
It's exactly the same thing. Is you want to refine your friend acquiring process, but you want to
Exactly.
have a friend acquiring process. You want to be
Exactly.
comfortable meeting new people and getting out there, because it's fascinating hearing the way you talk about it. Because it's like, for example, as soon as you brought up Alex, it's like I haven't had a good talk with Alex in ages, because Alex is fucking fascinating. He's got this
Uh-uh.
brilliant duality of nature where he has the structure of one side and the creativity of the other side. So many things that require more than one person's polarity, he can play both. It's fascinating.
Exactly.
And he might not even completely understand it. I hope he watches this podcast. The whole point of reaching out and creating those things, right? Like you're looking to enrich your life.
Right.
And as soon as you start counting those quality people around you, like as soon as you started on that train of thought from Sumit, and then you went through all the list of other names, you see where that richness has been built and added in the rest of it. And you realize the true value of the skill. Now, you and I have a lot of IMC technology, and a lot of this is quite easy for us. But there's a lot of trauma stuff that, well, I've really got to that point now where I work through it with people very well. So, hey, straight up, like this is pretty much the end of the podcast. But
indeed,
if
it
you
is.
want to start making some new friends, reach out and talk to me. Hey, like we're coming into the summer season here, or the holiday season there, right? It's still a socializing season wherever you are in the world. So if you maybe want to like actually start changing the way you socialize, because you can see the world starting to, you want to, if you feel it, stop.
Exactly. Well said, well spoken. So seeing how we're at the end of the podcast, my biggest takeaway is, of course, the Mahatma Gandhi quote: if you want change, you should start with yourself. If you don't have friends, then you haven't done anything proper in regards to the friend-making process, right? Everything has to do with value exchange, having fun. Having fun is one of being fun, or creating a situation where everybody can have fun is the most viable thing when it comes to creating new friends. Now, how friends persist has a lot to do with the character, the alignment of values, whatever. But if you want change, it should start with you.
Absolutely. And like literally the one thing I want to put out there, because when it comes down to a value exchange and a friendship, those words, people might take them too robotically and too literally. So I just want to like clarify that the value exchange, if you're being scientifically specific, it's a win-win for you, for them, for everyone, always. That's what friendship is. It's whenever you interact with someone, you want them to be better and you to be better and everyone to be better. That's being a friend. You can be a friend to anyone. Doesn't mean they have to be totally in a place where they're ready or whatever. Like, don't freak out about it. Open up, put yourself out there, reach out, talk to me, talk to Ryan, talk to who you feel comfortable with. But just, there's so many people. I know my voice reaches out, and there's people who listen, and they just need to just, never know. So,
you never know.
Boss brother, I felt the energy from this one. I knew this was going to be a fantastic podcast hours before we started.
Well, you did. That is true. And that being said, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for listening. I wish you a wonderful life, and see how it's weekend. Also, a wonderful weekend. Good morning, good evening, and of course, good night.